The iPhone 15 Pro and the Xiaomi 14 have two of the best phone camera systems right now. Both have capable hardware with 3x optical telephoto lenses. They both can record 4K log video with very similar camera app UIs, but still, these phones take and produce photos and videos in very different ways. At default, the iPhone 15 Pro pixel bins at 24 megapixels compared to the Xiaomi 14's 12 megapixel default. Then the Xiaomi 14 has a Leica collaboration for Leica tune filters and post-processing. With these differences, especially in post-processing, these phones produce different quality and styles of photos and videos. So which one actually has a better camera system? Well, I went to Disneyland to take a bunch of photos and videos in a bunch of different environments to properly compare these two. Before we go over them and see which one is actually better, it would mean a ton if you could subscribe to the channel. It might not seem like much, but it'll really help support this channel. Okay, first, let's go over the standard daylight outdoor photos, which is really the best condition for any camera out there. Since we're testing the best for both, of course, the results look great on both phones. Even when pixel peeping, the differences in details seem to be pretty negligible. The iPhone 15 Pro just tends to slightly sharpen some of the finer details, making photos seem grainier, while the Xiaomi 14 goes the other way by softening everything. The biggest difference is when there's subjects in the foreground, you get a much deeper and a more natural depth of field from the Xiaomi 14. The iPhone tends to go more for a wide focus. This difference is noticeable for both the main and 3x optical lenses. Now, because of this, the Xiaomi 14's photos do have more of a professional mirrorless or DSLR camera feel compared to the more smartphone type of photos from the iPhone 15 Pro. But as you probably noticed by now, the color reproduction and the overall style of the photos are very different between the two. The iPhone 15 Pro goes for more of a balanced, muted look with greener hues, while the Xiaomi 14 produces more saturated photos with higher highlights. Although the Xiaomi 14 can sometimes blow out photos or overexpose shadows, I found it to make better decisions with contrast levels. With slightly higher contrast, nice color reproduction, and highlights, the Xiaomi 14's photos just seem more dramatic and appealing to look at compared to the iPhone 15 Pro's more muted photos. This is even more apparent with the selfie camera, which I found the iPhone trying a little too hard to be balanced and producing very dull photos that were actually less realistic compared to what I was actually seeing. The Xiaomi 14's selfie camera definitely wins here, but I will say that the way the iPhone takes photos for the front and the rear, especially the rear cameras, makes them easier to edit and play around with in post. I had very similar thoughts about the differences in 4K video recording. The iPhone goes for more of a balanced muted look with more sharpening, while the Xiaomi 14 produces higher highlights, more contrast, and saturation. So sometimes you'll get very dull results from the iPhone, and sometimes you get really overexposed results from the Xiaomi. Really depends. But unlike the photos, I noticed less of these differences on the video side, and stabilization were really excellent and almost identical on both phones using the main lens and the selfie camera. While walking with shaky hands, both produce pretty natural movement for the video, but I will say that the iPhone's 3x optical video was less stable and more jolty compared to the Xiaomi 14's 3x optical results. Next up, let's go over the indoor shots, which are definitely more challenging than daylight outdoors. When there are enough light sources, I do find the differences between the two phones to be very similar as what we saw with daylight outdoor photos. I found both phones struggling with strong light sources in the background. Sometimes the Xiaomi did a better job with balancing the exposure, and sometimes the iPhone did a better job. But I will say that I did like how the Xiaomi tended to soften details for a more attractive photo over the over-sharpening the iPhone does in indoor environments. In more low-light situations indoors, I found the Xiaomi struggling a bit more with capturing things in motion, needing you to stay really still for a stable shot. But generally, in these really low-light situations, I did prefer what I saw from the iPhone. For video, both phones seem to struggle a bit with lens flares and reflections, but definitely more noticeable with the iPhone. The results are actually pretty similar in terms of the color reproduction, but like the photos, I like how Xiaomi tends to soften details instead of over-sharpening like what we see with the iPhone. But with the selfie video, I found this to be the opposite issue where the Xiaomi was over-sharpening things, making a grainier video. Then in low-light outdoors, we found the differences to be very minor between the two phones. Sometimes the iPhone was overexposing shadows, and sometimes the Xiaomi was doing the same. But in general, with Xiaomi's more contrasty and dramatic look, it was actually getting a more detailed image with less grain that looked nicer to me more often. I will say that the iPhone was getting the color reproduction to be more accurate, and like the indoor shots from earlier, it did capture motion slightly better than the Xiaomi. But those things don't necessarily mean a better looking photo, so I will have to give this to the Xiaomi. But with the selfies, I much preferred what I was getting with the Xiaomi 14. Too much sharpening on the iPhone side, and the Xiaomi did a much better balancing of the light sources between the foreground and the background. On the video side, while the iPhone did have more lens flare and reflections, it did produce more stabilized footage in low light situations with the main lens. So the results did tend to be clearer, and you do get nicer footage during the nighttime with the iPhone. But with the 3x optical at a stationary spot, I found the opposite to be true, where the Xiaomi 14 produced grainier but clearer video with better stabilization. So it is a pretty mixed comparison, but it's definitely a one-sided win for the iPhone in terms of the front-facing camera. The exposure and color balancing, image clarity, and stabilization are all much better in low light for the iPhone. Finally, here are just a few 4K 30 log video samples from both phones. I edited the colors the exact same way for all clips, so you're seeing a very even raw video quality comparison between these two phones. From these log clips, you can tell that the iPhone's post-processing was overdoing a lot with the regular video recording. The iPhone's log video goes for a more soft look without over-sharpening things. Both phones produce really high-quality log video, but I will say that the iPhone gives off more of a cinematic feel with the softer details and smoother motion even with the same frame rate. If I were to make a short film or a video that gives off cinematic feels, I would go for the iPhone 15 Pro than the Xiaomi 14. Alright, so that's going to do it for this video. Overall, I think the Xiaomi 14 produces higher highs and generally more appealing still images in most situations, producing results that are better than the conventional but still very consistent and great smartphone photos that come from the iPhone 15 Pro for both the front and rear cameras. But on the video side, I think the iPhone produces better results most of the time. It was much more reliable for tougher situations compared to the Xiaomi 14, and the log video samples just shows a higher potential of the iPhone's cameras. Now, those are just my opinions. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Which phone you think won this battle based on all these photo and video samples. If you are interested in buying either of these phones, the shopping links are down below. If you did like this video, I'd really appreciate it if you could click the like button and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next video.